Hi friends, welcome to the Coffee, Yarn, and Dinosaurs podcast. This is a not very regular at all podcast that pretty much ends up coming out quarterly, so you usually see about 4 of these podcast style videos from me per year. My name is Ruth Brash. I'm a knitting, crochet, Tunisian crochet designer, and all-around lover of fiber arts. You will also get some information in here about general life type stuff. If that doesn't interest you, skip it. The sections will be labeled as best I can. So let's start with life. What's been going on? It is winter. Today is January 18th-ish, give or take, possibly the 19th, 2022. It is a sunny day. It is still snowy outside, but the snow is starting to melt just a little bit. So I decided to make a video for you guys. At this time of year, orchard work is currently not happening. If you don't know, we moved to a property last year, about March of 2021, and it turned out there was an orchard on it, apple orchard. So we are learning how to take care of that orchard. So right now the orchard is, not budding. We'll be doing some pruning, but right now there's not anything happening. I am doing some garden preparations. I have not done a whole lot of gardening in my life, but since we're a little bit more rural and there have been some supply chain issues, it seems like it would be a good life decision to learn a little bit more about how to grow my own food and preserve my own food. So this is not like a homesteading channel or anything like that. It's something just that I'm interested in and I'm learning. So I'm going to share that with you. So right now I'm planning to do raised garden beds. I did a couple of very small ones last year and sort of just threw seeds in the ground willy-nilly without getting a whole lot of information. My brain went, oh yeah, just throw things in. So I learned a lot last year, including that I need to adequately space my plants out. You don't have to plant the whole seed packet when it comes. And that a garden should probably be planned so I can put, companion planting is what I'm working on. So right now I've ordered seeds and I'm working on a plan for that. I'm working on a layout and which plants I can plant next to each other, quantities, all of that. I'm also learning about something called succession planting, which basically means that you don't plant all of your seeds at one time, so you don't have to harvest everything at the same time, from what I can understand, which makes sense to me. Something else new that's happening this year is I am homeschooling for the first time. And we made that choice for a variety of reasons, and it has been a very steep learning curve, which is part of why you haven't seen me on here very much, because there just has not been a whole lot of time or chunks of time to sit down and do a big conversational podcast type episode. It's smoothing out a little bit more. So here we are. I have time for that. Let's see. I think that's pretty much all that's going on in life right now. We have animals, we have a ton of chickens, we have a couple ducks. That's about it. Let me show you the yarn things. First project. I'm sure I finished plenty of projects. It was 4 months ago-ish or 3 months ago when I did the last podcast episode. I'm probably not going to go dig through and show you a whole bunch of projects. I might insert a couple at the end just to show you. But one of the things I've noticed is that while I'm teaching or while the kids are working, I sort of need a project that I can keep in my hands so I don't get too antsy while I'm waiting for them to do like, handwriting, copy work or something like that, or do a drawing or a sculpture for art or whatever. So I am making a very, very simple spiral hexagon. So the principle behind this is that you basically just make a hexagon that increases in the way you would increase a granny square. And then, let me find the right spot. Yep. And then when you're done, you fold it and it makes a jacket shape. So I'm not sure if the idea was original to Elizabeth Zimmerman, but the pattern that is very well known that uses this is called the baby surprise jacket. And that's a knitting pattern that does this same thing. Quick note while I'm editing, the baby surprise jacket actually uses a different technique. So it looks the same, but it's not the hexagon thing at all. But the folding up origami style jacket is the same. That's all. Carry on. So you can see it's the right shape. This will be the underarm. So I'm making decent progress already. I'm just not quite there yet. I don't know if I could... That's pretty awkward. It kind of looks like one of those old-timey, like, sweat cloths that women would tuck in their dresses. It's not a sweat cloth, it's a cardigan that I can't show you to try on because the top seam isn't attached. But yes, let's just stick with this. Let's stick with this. Okay, so once this gets to the right size, basically for the armholes and for the back shoulders, I will start just working. I'm going to make 2 of these, and then I'll just start working back and forth like all the way around the body of the cardigan. This is no pattern. This is just me. It's a hexagon. It's a solid double crochet hexagon with a little bit of shaping for the sleeves. Maybe eventually I'll write it if you guys want it. I don't think it's that complicated. But let me show you the pretty the This was last year, one of those times when I saw an indie dyer post something and I got sucked in, basically. So this, the multicolored yarn, these are a whole bunch of mini skeins from Casual Fashion Queen. And she did snow dyeing, which is super fun. I don't know if you've done it before. I have. It's really fun. You basically use snow instead of water. And you put the snow on top of the yarn and you sprinkle the powdered acid dyes on top of the snow. So as the snow melts, it distributes the dye differently than you normally would. And I think she speckled on top of these too. So maybe used the dye for the base color and then speckled on top of them. Either way, they're gorgeous and I absolutely love them. So I'm going to be using the navy, which is Feisty Fibres, I think, the glasses logo. I'm going to be using that navy as sort of a continual thing throughout, contrast throughout, because I have 3 skeins of it. And then I'll just be adding in mini skeins as I go. And I was thinking to myself, this would be a really cool pattern for like the advent calendar minis that you get too, right? Because if you have a couple skeins of a solid yarn, you could just add in your mini skein as you go every day as you open the advent. So this is very fun so far. We'll see how it goes when I get to assembly, because this is one of those concept pieces that should work, but whether it actually will work remains to be seen. But for now, it's pretty and I'm enjoying it. And it's nice to have something kind of small, at least in the stages that it's in right now, to just like grab and go. Because my other projects are not so small. Most of them. For example, the giant sweater. Maybe I'll put this on for you guys so you can see it. I did a very short like Instagram reel / TikTok showing the try on and the fit, but I don't like that I can't really talk in those videos, so I think I'm going to try it on for you guys and show you what we have so far. So I have the bottom of it on 2 sets of needles, which I did for try on purposes anyway. So why not while we have it here, right? So this is a top-down raglan sweater. Raglan referring to the way the yoke is increased. And you can see that this still will have a neckline attached, but the neckline sits well. It sits comfortably where I like to have a neckline. So I'll probably do some ribbing up here. The armhole fits pretty great, so this will be a slightly loose sleeve. And then let's see if I can back this up any more from myself. I'm gonna stand on my chair. All my neighbors are gonna think I'm crazy, and that's fine. See? It kind of fits. This is my hip bone. So if you can see, it's actually starting to get longer than it was already. This is my hip joint. So, you know, it fits. Ooh, we can do the camera pan thing. Ready? It fits, and I love the colors. I am having way too much fun blending these colors together. This is the Everyday Jumper by, I want to say Caidree, but I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. Caidree. And I don't super love the beginning part because I only used 4 colors held together here. But I really, really like the end part where I started just using partial skeins. And this is 7 strands of fingering weight held together. And this is my favorite part so far. And I like it so much that I will probably make another one because I'm just making this out of my scraps and partials bucket. And this is just the superwash fingering weight stuff. That's not even the non-superwash. That's not even like the DK weight. And that also does not include the actual mini skeins. Those are just partials. So I will probably make at least one more of those sweaters, maybe with a couple modifications. Even though it is meant to have positive ease, I think I would just like it to be a little bit more form-fitting. And that's just a personal preference. The one thing I will say about the pattern is that the designer writes in the ease. So instead of it being a pattern where they say the finished bust measurement will be 45, say, right? I have a 42-inch bust. If I choose the 45, I know that I have 3 inches of ease. Instead of that, the designer has written in some indeterminate amount of ease. They don't tell you how much, and you just have to sort of trust that it'll come out right, which I don't do very well with patterns, but for the most part, it has worked out. I will probably just do some of my own calculations before I make the next one. So, yes, that's going well. Let's see, what else are we working on? Ooh, I will show you. Hang on. Okay, this is new since last time. Apparently I'm in a purple mood lately. And I'm in the middle of a row. So this is a pattern test for someone else. This is a Tunisian crochet sweater. So you can see this is the armhole, or the neck hole, sorry. And the sleeve is being worked flat, and it'll get seamed up when it's done. So I have maybe like 10 more rows on this sleeve and then the other one, and then I'm completely done. The pattern does not write in any edging on here. It's just supposed to be blocked. So because it's a pattern test, I will follow those instructions exactly. And if it turns out that I don't really love it, once I've turned in my pattern photos for the test, I can make whatever modifications I want to, which would probably just be doing like a slip stitch around the neckline or something like that to stabilize it a little bit. So this is Knitpicks / WeCrochet Brava Bulky. So this is 100% acrylic because I bought a whole bunch of their Brava Bulky. They had like a $1 and $2 sale at the end of 2021. So I don't know if you could see like that cubby back there has like all the rainbow colors and stuff. Because like I said, remember I said that I did not do so well with the whole stash enjoyment thing at the end of last year. But these projects, like the bulky project and the oh, I didn't tell you about stash enjoyment in this video. Maybe I'll just insert that video as part of this whole big thing. We'll see. This is called Stash Enjoyment, and if you're any type of fiber artist, I'm sure you already know where I'm going with this, but let me tell you about my motivations. Last year I made a big spreadsheet, and basically I imported my Ravelry stash into an Excel workbook that a friend had given me, and it calculated how much yarn I had, right? Total yardage for all of the yarn that I had. And then I took the yearly total of how much yarn I had used from my Ravelry project pages, because that's where I pretty much log everything. And basically what I came up with is that I had about 10-ish years worth of yarn. So I realized, you know, the way that I have been buying yarn for the past 2 years isn't really sustainable. And more than that, it's not something that I want to feed into myself as a habit. I don't want to make a habit of buying to excess just because it's pretty. And not everyone's going to make that choice, but this is a choice that I'm making. So last year, I gave myself very broad guidelines. Basically, instead of doing a no buy challenge, I thought to myself that I want to enjoy what I have, right? This yarn, I dye it or I buy it because it's beautiful. And that 10 years worth quantity of yarn that I have, I bought it because I liked it, right? I bought it because I wanted to use it. And so now, instead of just having it sit on a shelf, I want to enjoy it. It's time to use it up. However, as you might guess, without specific guidelines, it failed miserably. Well, that's not true. It worked pretty well for the first 6 months. And then I kind of got off track because friends and family members were having babies. So I was like, oh, I'm buying yarn to make the blanket because I want child-friendly yarn. Let me just throw in a couple extra skeins. Or, oh, this indie dyer is struggling and I really want to help their business. Let me buy a couple skeins from them. Things like that. So it ended up in a surplus for the end of the year. It was not good. So this year I'm sort of switching up my method a little bit, and basically what I'm doing for guidelines is if I already have yarn from an indie dyer, I am going to use up the yarn from that dyer that I already have before I buy more from them. So that's the first thing. Secondly is I want to get myself down to no more than 5 active projects at a time. So that also feeds into the habit of finishing or frogging projects, which is funny because after I'm done with this video, I'm going to record a podcast and show you like 7. So we're working on it. It's a work in progress. But in general, the ratio that I'm shooting for is 3 skeins out for every 1 new skein allowed to come in. And we'll see how that works. But anyway, if this is something that's resonating with you, that sort of, yeah, I've got enough. I have what I need. I have more than I need, realistically. But these like total deprivation or like self-martyrdom, I'm never buying yarn again, like it just doesn't work, right? Doesn't work. But I want to have a positive focus instead. Let's enjoy what we have. This is just something that I'm doing. If you would like to do it, I'm on social media using the hashtag StashEnjoyment2022. Pretty much just on Instagram and TikTok these days. I don't really do Facebook anymore. I haven't been active in a Ravelry group for like 2 years, so if there's interest, I have a very dormant Discord channel that maybe I'll start up a Discord channel or something like that. But anyway, yes, if you would like to join me, or if you have questions or whatever, I've linked a blog post in the description box and you can check it out. Thanks for joining me. Bye. Projects like the big bulky sweaters that are actually getting done and really completing projects is making me feel like, hey, I can actually do this whole work from stash thing. And it's a nice feeling. It's nice to feel like, hey, I have goals that I can actually meet by making these choices to meet them. And I think part of that is also coming from, I have started going back to the gym, not necessarily for like physical appearance or weight loss so much as that I've noticed when I work out on a regular basis, I have a lot more mental clarity. I have more energy through my day. I have more focus. And I seem to do better at being faithful in other parts of my life when I have a consistent routine to start out my day, like going to the gym. So I'm really enjoying that. Enjoying. It's hard. It's hard because I haven't done much physical exercise for the last year, but I know that my body will adapt and I know that I will grow back into it. And it's already been a good thing with the mental clarity and focus aspect. So I'm really happy about that. Let's grab other projects and show you. I have one big one. In here that I haven't been able to show you before, but the pattern has pretty much been published. This is, whoopsie, we got a little red string in front there. I'm gonna make sure I'm showing you the right side. This is terrible. Sometimes I can't tell which is the right side on this piece. There we go. I think the slanty edge goes at the top. This is a pattern test for Katherine Gibbs, who is Jojo de Bomb on Instagram. And it's a, like a sampler piece. I was testing this, it was her advent pattern, and I think it was exclusive to the yarn dyer until like February or something like that. So I still have a couple colors left to finish off. So you can see it's just very, there's a lot of different stitches. It's like a sampler. So if you've wanted to try like lace and texture stitches, there's a lot of different stitches in here. These ones, the bobbles drove me crazy, but I love how it looked. Like I really, really like how it looked. And I really, really like this sort of butterfly flower one too. Let me see what else is on here. Some seed stitch, some nice big mesh. This one's cool too. Do you see what I mean? There's just a whole bunch of, like, just neat stitches. Oh yeah, and this one on is like a, I don't even know what you call it, like a netting. The one thing I will say is that it is completely written out. So there's no charts in here. Which is part of the reason why I'm slow on it, because I'm a very much chart-centric person. So if you need charts and you cannot do a written pattern, this might be a problem for you. But if you're a written only type of person, like it's line by line, even where there's sections where you could say repeat rows 10 to 14, she's chosen to write out line by line. So if you're that type of person, like, don't tell me to repeat rows, don't shorten it up, just tell me what to do. That's what the pattern is like. So I have, oh, and here's the other cool thing, is it decreases, right? So you cast on at the big end. So by the time you're like losing your mind and ready to be done with the shawl, because that's just how shawls are, especially when they're fingering weight, you get to the point where you're losing your mind and you want to be done, right? By the time you get to that point, you're decreasing. So this is the 12th section out of, I want to say like 15. And I'm down to like 80 stitches, which is awesome. And then after that, there's an applied cable border that goes all the way around it with a full skein of fingering weight yarn. So these are all Dragon Horde yarn minis. I think this was her half advent, like the Hobbit themed half advent from last year. There's going to be a rustling for a second. And then I'm going to use this for the border. It's Dragon Horde yarn Poison on the singles. And this isn't a currently available color. And I debated about, I bought it to do like a 3-color shawl design. And one of my things this year with the stash enjoyment theme is just use it, right? Stop hoarding it. Stop, oh my gosh, this might be a perfect project later. Just use the yarn. Like, and that's me talking to myself. Ruth, just use it. Yarn dyers dye yarn. I dye yarn, right? I have this color of yarn dye sitting out in my garage. If I really wanted more yarn in this color, I could just dye it. I have undyed yarn. I could dye this. So I need to stop hoarding yarn and just use the stupid stuff, because it will make a pretty shawl and it will be very squishy and it will feel nice. So that is my pep talk to myself. This needs to be finished. I think she's doing an what's the word? Not April Fool's Day. Valentine's Day. Same thing. I think she's doing a Valentine's Day release, so I have to finish this before Valentine's Day, which is maybe in like 3 weeks, so it'll get done. Let's look and see if there's anything I haven't showed you. Oh, yeah, okay, so this is something interesting. This has been sitting in the basket of Indecision. So this is yarn that I dyed, and I had it in my idea that I wanted to do a toe-up DK weight sock, because I think I showed you I did some top-down DK weight socks and I really, really enjoyed them. And I had been thinking to myself that I wanted to do a toe-up knee sock that was adjustable as you went up the leg. And I really like the foot, and it fits great, and it looks really pretty. And the colors work nicely together, which tends to happen when you have yarn by the same dyer, who in this case is me. But I started doing the ribbing up the leg, and I did not take into account how tight the ribbing was going to be. So this is sort of sitting in my basket of Indecision until I until I finish the projects with the timeline, right? The 2 test projects and the scrappy sweater are going to take priority before I decide to finish these. But we'll see. I don't think I'm going to frog them all the way down. I just have to decide what I'm going to do on the leg. And that might look like, you know, taking it down and just doing stockinette with a gusset up the back or gussets up the side. I'm not really sure. But I have had a problem for a long time where I have wanted to knit knee socks, but I have calves that are not the same size that people write them in knitting patterns. I'm not really sure why knitting patterns for knee-high socks seem to be written for like child legs, but apparently they are. And this has been a problem since I was like in high school. There was a sock in knitty.com called Clessidra. And I'm going to see if I can put a little picture of it in here. A beautiful sock. And this is not to shame the designer. It's to tell you a story. It's to tell you where this originated, right? So Clessidra is a knee-high sock that has beautiful cables, and it was written in like 3 sizes or something like that. And so I cast on for the largest size of it, and I tried it on, and I couldn't even get it up like the bump of my calf. And I was like, what in the world is this? Like, what is going on? This is supposed to be a knee-high sock. Maybe my gauge is wrong. And I looked at it and was like, no, my gauge isn't wrong. What's the problem? And then I looked at the pattern measurements, and it was to fit like a 12-inch calf circumference, and mine are like 16.5 or 17. So it just is not written for curvy legs. Let's put it that way. So I wanted to do a toe up or just any DK sock pattern that would actually fit people like me who want to knit knee socks but cannot because they're not really available. We will see how that works out. I have different options kind of floating around in my head, and we'll see what I decide to do. So yeah, that's those. Let's see what else is over here. That is yarn. This is great. This is yarn that I have not started a project yet for because I am being good and not casting on too many projects. I think I showed you guys the big brioche shawl last time. Yeah. I've gotten a grand total of like maybe 4 more rows done on it. Let's see which side's the front side. This side's the front side. See, look, it's super pretty. It's just something that requires a lot of attention because I'm doing brioche lace without a pattern. I'm just kind of swatching with it. So it's not really like an easy nighttime knit while you're watching a show or reading a book. And it's not really a while I'm teaching school because if I count wrong, which I have so many times, I have to frog it again. So it's pretty, it's just not something I have time to work on a lot. And then here's something that I kind of would love opinions on, if you have thoughts. So I started this. This is a really pretty yarn, like the wool is grown in the US, dyed in the US, and sent off to a mill. So it's like milled in America, I think in Texas, right? So I started doing this and I love this. This is going to be a skirt was my plan, but I don't know if you can see it. Does it look to you like the motifs line up all the way? Like they go straight down the skirt? I understand it's not blocked yet. I understand. But does it look like the motifs go straight down the skirt? I would love to know, because the stitch dictionary I'm using has errors in it. And I didn't find out until like partway through the second or third repeat that the stitch dictionary has errors in it. So I have had to modify the pattern from the stitch dictionary so things line up. But like it's not perfect. Can you see it? Can you see it? Obviously, if I wrote a pattern, I would write it so that the stitches line up. But I'm curious if for this sample, the motifs look out of alignment to you. So yeah, this would be a skirt. And depending on how much yarn I have left will depend on how long it gets. And I'm also not sure yet if I want this to be the whole skirt and put a liner in it, or if I just want this to be like the bottom edge and maybe do like a solid color for the part that covers like waist down to my knee or something like that. I'm not really sure. We'll see what happens. This might also be a fusion pattern. Like I might do this for the bottom and then pick up a knit for the rest of it. So I don't know. There's lots of options. Again, with the basket of indecision. I'm sure I will make my decision in like July, right? Just when nobody needs a wool skirt, I will finally make my mind up and get working on this. So that's about where I am right now for projects. I am planning out designs for 2022. I know I'm a little bit late, but I have looked at what have been the most popular patterns for 2021, and I am planning my designs for this year accordingly, which is new and different for me because typically I sort of just like go with the flow and make as I feel like it. But since I have less time, because I am homeschooling and I am doing like garden and orchard stuff, I feel that if I'm going to put my time and effort into making patterns, I want to make things that you actually want or that will actually be useful to you. So we'll see. We'll see what this year's patterns turn out to be. Yeah. So I think that's it. Thank you for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day. And apparently I'll see you in like 3 or 4 months. But there will be tutorial videos and stuff before then. But apparently this podcast, I'll see you in 3 or 4 months. Thank you for joining me. Bye.